Welcome into another episode of the Cloaks and Capes podcast. I'm your host, Robbie Landis, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Kali Scales. Don't have any kind of, interesting or, out there intro for you today. We're just going to jump right into it, but I do want to remind everyone to leave us ratings, leave us reviews on whatever platform it is that you're listening to. Spotify also lets you comment on episodes, so if you leave any questions there or comments about how bad we did or corrections, we know people love to give those to us, that's where you can do it, and we will read them on air. But our guest today, who I'm very, very happy to announce, very excited to have here, is Matt, a.k.a. DungeonGlitch, a.k.a. GemmedFirefly, who I've been a massive fan of for the longest time. I still have a t-shirt that I bought from GemmedFirefly that is still holding up just as well as it did when I first bought it. I should have wore it today, but I didn't. I believe I shirt on instead. But Matt, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. This is awesome. It's great to finally connect on one of these.
It is. We've played a one-shot together. I once back on Threads, there was a whole manifest party that you want to have with, who do you want to play D&D with? And I put one out there, and then Matt's like, bet, let's do it. And and threw it all together, and it was a good time. I feel like this is kind of me returning the favor in a way. Granted, that went 2-3 hours, and this is only going to be about an hour, but it's the closest I got right now. So something that we like to do on the show here before we get into things is, and this isn't the first time that I've done this for you, I've actually made a magic item inspired by GemmedFirefly. I had an illustration and everything, but you're here now. We need a new thank you thing. So I made a new magic item for you called the Dungeon Trap Remote. It is an uncommon, wondrous item, a complex clockwork mechanism. This black device has several buttons and knobs on it. Pressing them doesn't always yield a result, but when in a dungeon or the lair of a powerful creature, it lights up and buzzes in your hand. Has 5 charges, regains 1d4 expended charges daily at dawn, and there are 2 options you can use. One is called Glitch, Dungeon Glitch. When a creature you can see within 30 feet of you triggers a trap, you can use your reaction to turn back time for that creature by 6 seconds, resetting the trap and preventing it from affecting the triggering creature and others near it. And then the other option is called Toggle, where you can use a magic action while within 10 feet of a trap to safely disarm it or rearm one that has been triggered or disabled. And if a triggered trap, such as a hidden crossbow or something, requires ammunition or another item to function, the device will magically recreate whatever is necessary for that trap to function properly.
That's fantastic.
I love that one.
I just want to make the most brutal dungeon I can think of now.
Yeah, now you have to actually make sure to put a lot of traps. I don't know a lot of DMs that utilize tons of traps. There is a book I have on the book of traps and puzzles and stuff in there is real deadly. There's a goblin catapult that throws flaming goblins at you. That's supposed to be a low-level, non-complex trap and deals fireball damage.
Oh my gosh.
And it has a goblin.
Matt's going to be running Tomb of Horrors and be like, and by the way, I've also added something else in.
Oh, nice. So
it's a Magic the Gathering deck I have right there.
I bought some of the Final Fantasy Magic cards today. The FOMO finally got to me. Not to play or anything, but I just wanted to collect them in some way. I got some okay things, quite a bit. Yeah, there's Kali's. You actually have 2 of them. A friend got you the Squall card for your birthday, and another friend got you the same one but foil, one-upping that
correct.
Friend. Yeah,
Wonderful.
Excellent.
I have a whole box. I got so many of them right now.
My
wife just went out and just bought them.
The Final Fantasy ones?
Yeah.
They also got me the Dragoon's Wyvern because I was a Dragoon in FF11. And they got me this one because Reen and Gaia are definitely gay, even if Square Enix won't admit it.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, the reason that we brought you on here today is to chat and talk as we do. Now, normally we have a very specific topic that we're going to talk about. We try to educate a little bit here. I don't know how well we accomplish that or how often we do. But today I want to go a little bit more kind of esoteric with it and just talk about what makes D&D, tabletop RPGs feel as magical as they do, because it's not something that you get with every game that you play in. It's not something that I think every table can achieve. And when it does happen, I feel like sometimes you can point to what it is. Sometimes you can't really. I don't know if it's like there's a thing that one of my professors in college, one of my acting professors, said that there's some actors who just, you can see when they're up on stage playing certain roles, they just have like this twinkle in their eye, you know? They just get it. And that's not something you can teach. You can't teach someone how to get the twinkle in their eye. You either have it or you don't have it. And I don't know if the magic when it comes to TTRPGs is like that or not, but there's just something special about them. And I'd love if either of you, unless both of you are like, what the fuck are you talking about, Robbie? Think you can sort of put that into words on what you think it is that makes them so special sometimes.
All right. I'll give it a go. Yeah, I think what makes TTRPGs special is, at the end of the day, we're all sitting here playing pretend and telling a story together. And what is really special about it is when you find these moments where the story you're telling is resonating with other players at the table and they're wanting to share and help you to tell that story. And in doing so, I think everyone to an extent feels like they're kind of alone with their problems and the stuff that they struggle with. But when you have those cool moments at the table, you feel like other people understand a bit of who you are and a bit of what's going on and maybe share that experience with you. And so TTRPGs are special because they literally do show us that we're not alone.
What about you, Matt? What do you think?
No, I agree with that. Part of it too about, TTRPGs being magical. There's got to be at least a half dozen surreal, deep, different answers to this question that a lot of different perspectives can, on to Kali's point, the connection part, it's almost like you're sharing a simulation. And, it literally gives us access to an alternate reality that we all can control. And it's limited only by like the understanding and the consent of all involved. So it's almost like a shared lucid dream. Or if you're a stifled writer, it is your fever dream as a DM. So, yeah.
Can either of you recall the first time, whether it's your first time, your earliest experience, or maybe just when you kind of realized what tabletop RPGs are capable of in that way? I first played in 3.5 in like 2006 or something like that. I was a player for most of that. I DM'd some 4th edition. Before I became a DM, all of my games were essentially just like we would show up, we'd make our characters. They barely had names, let alone backstories. And it was just, the DM being like, all right, cool, here's where you are. Oh, a fight has started. And so now it's combat, right? There definitely wasn't any sort of story to it. And I don't even think that I did much of a story until, when I was in 4th edition. But I know where I realized, I think, how special it could be. So I'm wondering how early it was for the two of you.
I played Dungeons & Dragons 2.0 when I was 12.
Okay.
And it took me a second to realize the freedom of it. There were 2 parts to the difficulty of it. One, I'd never seen anything like it that just kind of gave me the freedom of everything other than just having an imagination as a child.
Yeah.
And finding that there was like a codified set of rules that would help you actually facilitate and put numbers or some kind of measurement to the things that you were trying to do was wild. It was I liked data as a kid, so having some way to articulate the things that I wanted to do in a format other people could explain, in a system that I could actually show things happening, it just suited me right down to my core. The other difficulty I had was that my DM didn't understand it at all. So like, okay, we're a little limited by your understanding here. And a month later, I'm like, let me try. So
it's really interesting too, because you would think that, especially as children, that putting like rules around something would limit that imagination. But I forget who say it, but I know that we repeat it a lot around here, that restriction breeds creativity. I guess to a certain extent, having those rules kind of stops that whole idea of, no, I shot you, no you didn't, I dodged, and that arguing of back and forth. Kali, what about you? I'm really interested because for as long as I've known you, you've always been a writer, and so I know that you started pretty early. No, you started about around the same time that I do, but you also started as a DM, so you didn't really necessarily have an example to like go off of.
Yeah, I don't think that I really had that moment of it clicking until I started playing with my brother-in-law. We were playing a Song of Ice and Fire game, and it was a ton of fun. But it wasn't until the end of that game, I was playing a character from Bear Island, a Mormont, and he had this whole thing that he set up where she ended up like making some prophecy come true, and she kind of emerged as a leader to her people. And it was this really cool moment for me of like, oh, wow, my DM really put some effort into making my character's story come full circle and like evolve into something that was really worth telling. And there was kind of that click moment of like, oh, I actually like this can be every bit as rewarding as like the stories that I write. This can be really, really cool in its own right when you have the right DM that's willing to put in the work on that sort of thing. So I think that was probably where it started. But the other moment that springs to mind, Mr. Landis.
Oh, is it me?
Is the 2 moments in our first game together, your revelation of Evelyn's children still being alive when I had very clearly written that they were both dead. The revelation that her children were still alive, and at the end, you made me cry in the last episode, and that was
with the memory snow globe.
Yes,
yep.
With the memory snow globe. And I think those 2 moments were kind of like, if I had any doubt after that Song of Ice and Fire game, that was like the hard moment where I was like, okay, I want to do this forever, actually.
So for me, it wasn't a moment in a game. I think that when we think about it, when it comes to imagination, when it comes to telling stories, obviously humans have been telling stories for as long, even before we could probably, speak and communicate, right? And so just theoretically, that ability there to reach people and to connect on that level has always been there. And, to Matt's story, as kids, obviously we have crazy imaginations, and, it's okay and encouraged to use those imaginations when you're a kid. But then at some point we grow up, you're told to put away the kid stuff, stop playing, become an adult. And so I think that when you're older and adults, we sit down to play Dungeons and Dragons, because it's a game, and a lot of times it's with strangers, we don't allow ourselves to be open on the level that I think a lot of people are doing it now. We don't allow ourselves to be vulnerable in that way. And so for me, I think realizing that tabletop RPGs would be such a great avenue for this was watching Critical Role. I think that, I don't know if it's because I was already a performer in an actor, but when it first started getting big, people, cry about, oh, the Matt Mercer effect. Real tables aren't like that. And I don't think that that's wrong, because in a lot of instances, people get together at like the local game store again with strangers, and you're, going to run through a dungeon. So you're right. It's not going to be like that. But when you have friends that you've played with forever, that you feel safe with, that and then as you said, when your DM puts in the effort, and especially if the players match that effort and everyone is willing to trust each other, open up, that's when it starts to really, feel special. And in that campaign that you mentioned, I think that's when it really kind of started to happen for me. And I think most recently, having known you for as long as I have, told all the stories that we have, particularly for the character that you're playing now with Callista. Not only did I almost make you cry recently, I made somebody else cry, including them in a scene, because they had a connection to it that I didn't know about, and they actually had like step away from the table for a while. And I was thinking about a follow-up thing. You can prepare yourself mentally for this whenever it happens. I made myself cry in the shower the other day thinking about like a follow-up moment that may or may not happen at some point.
Matt, have you made yourself cry before running D&D? I know I have. I've run into that.
I have not.
Good, you're normal. Someone at this table ought to be.
There was, I think the first time that I almost made myself cry, and you can actually find this on our YouTube, was when my partner was having a moment where her character Hermia was becoming a champion of the Raven Queen. Found out that the voice that's been talking to her inside of her sword was her brother, who she's been looking for, but like he didn't have memories as the sword. She had the choice of like, do you want him, allow him to pass on and go to wherever the next destination is, or stay in your sword with you? And she didn't feel like, she wanted to make that choice for him, so she let him go and pass on, and role playing that scene with her. There's a few times, I don't know if you can catch it or not. You might be able to, but there's definitely a few times where like I was choked up and almost started crying, but was able to kind of hold it together a little bit. So why do we think it is? Why is it so difficult for people? Because there's a lot of people who play who even love tabletop RPGs, but they still don't get it, right? They see tables like that. They look at Critical Role and they go, normal tables aren't like that. I think the wealth of like actual plays that are popping up, and there's tons of them even outside of the big ones. If you go and look on the D&D category in Twitch, there's way more people doing actual plays than there are doing like prep or like non-play content. But there are still people who just don't get it. Why do you think that is?
I don't really watch actual plays.
Yeah, not even necessarily like into the actual plays. I don't watch a whole lot either, but obviously it's a thing, right? Like how invested we get into these stories, but there are some people who like just don't get that like storytelling aspect of it, right? Anytime I post a TikTok about like backstories, I'll get someone, who's like, backstories. You don't need backstories to play the game. Anybody has a backstory in my game, they're going to be re-rolling a character. I'll have you re-rolling characters so often you won't even want a backstory anymore.
That's toxic.
Actual comment that I've got before. Like some people just...
You must be a treat to play for.
Honestly, I should probably take a lot of these comments and just make a video like a conversation is being had with someone who's using all these, but it's terrible. So what is it that you think stops some people from embracing that idea of like the cooperative storytelling, or like opening themselves, up to it at least?
I think there's probably a number of people out there who just have it in their mind that, they think of Dungeons and Dragons as being a board game where, there's a set of rules and there's a winner and a loser at the end of the game, and you're playing to be the winner. When you tell them, it's cooperative storytelling is actually what it is, that's not either something that they think is okay for them to want to do, because like you say, since we're, 10, 11, 12 years old, our parents and adults have been telling us, stop playing pretend, get into the real world, start focusing on things. And I think for some people, they just think it's kind of a waste of time, which is so very sad.
Even though the people that are playing, like not even just people who don't play D&D, but I feel like there's people who play D&D, so they get it. They have fun with it. But then when they see people role-playing, they're like, no, that's a dumb part of the game.
I think... I'm a huge role player, so it's hard for me to get into that mindset. Yeah. But my guess would be that, for them, like I say, it's a board game, and the goal is to get to the end and to win. It is to amass power, to grow stronger, and to win. They want to play a video game, effectively, is what they're looking for, not a storytelling adventure.
Any thoughts, Matt?
And for some people, that's okay, because, if that's, if the table understands that that's what they want to do, then they can do that. It's difficult to really nail down what... There's too many factors. Some people are just shy and they don't want to open themselves up to certain things. Some people feel it's an escape and they might actually be afraid of opening themselves up to it in that certain way. And some people still might not fully understand or grasp what it is that they're trying to do here.
Yeah.
So if when I was a kid, I was dungeon mastering for people who just got out of prison, and they'd never played it.
Wow.
And they for them, it was a wonderful escape. And it took them like 1 or 2 sessions. And some people, they took to it immediately. Mm-hmm. He's like, wait a minute. So you're telling me that if I just decide to pick up a sword, I can just hit whoever I want again? You do that. It's like, okay, we're going to rob a bank. I'm like, good. Let's do that.
Let's do that. Let's do that in game. I like that idea. Matt, I'm sorry. Can I just clarify? You said you did this when you were a kid.
Yeah.
Like teenager?
14.
14, and you were DMing for people who had just gotten out of prison.
Yeah, I had a wild childhood.
And I was not seriously trying to say there's anything wrong with that. I'm just like, how did that circumstance come about? That's wild.
Look, sometimes like people say certain things on the show that just catch us off guard. In our first episode with Erin, when she mentioned that, you know, she had worked as a moderator on the Neopet forums and also in the Peace Corps. It was like, how do you go from one of those to the other one?
The one person was like, yeah, no, I grew up in a cult. And I'm like, hold
That's
up.
right.
Don't,
yep, we
you
had
buried
that as well.
the lead on that one. I got to hear more about that. Okay.
I think for me, what I notice, and I don't blame people for this either, but I think that of the thing that I think is probably the most true, or maybe the most often, is either being shy or being afraid. Because the main reason that I decided to become a dungeon master, and also to try and do it professionally as well, is the number of times that I've seen horror story D&D stories. I mean, there's entire subreddits dedicated just to bad D&D experiences. And then people being like, well, that's what the game is like, never touching it again. And like, you're missing out on so many wonderful experiences because of that. You know, there are so many DMs, whether they knowingly realize they're doing this, but, you know, they have that like adversarial sort of mindset, that me versus the players, you know, the constantly trying to one up them or like, you know, kill them or something like that. I even with Critical Role, you know, early on, I remember hearing a story about how the cast members all have a chat separate from Matt, you know, so that way they can either plan stuff or, you know, I know that there are some tables that definitely do that, because the DM, if they know you're going to do something, will think up a way to counter it. And the more that I work with my players, knowing what they're going to do, even if it's to the detriment of my plans or my dungeon or my bad guys, it always ends up turning out better. Plus, I don't have to worry about planning for your plan. You're the players. Nothing's going to survive you. You're gonna screw up your own plan. I know it. I've seen it happen before.
Yeah, we do that a lot. But I think it can be. I've had enough players at my table now where the first game they play with me, they play very basic character as their first character, right? They play someone who is, you know, hero McFighter, and
your trauma is I'm an orphan, but you don't really have a reason why. You just are.
They're an orphan, and now they're fighting because they need money, and that's what they're doing. Like, that's the whole thing. And maybe they have a gimmick, right? And that's their whole first character. But then as they sit at the table and watch the other players comfortably role-playing and being their characters and getting these story arcs and stuff, then they start going, all right, well, you know what? Next game, I think I want to be a little bit more complex than Hero McFighter. I think I might have to try some of this stuff out.
What is the wildest change in a character from one campaign to the next that you've seen? You don't have to name any names here, but like they were this character in this game, and then you saw like how much they've grown based on the character in the next game. I'll go first. So I had a player who in the first campaign, they're like, all right, you know, I'm a guard in like the military or whatever. I got kicked out during my training because there was someone who didn't really like me. And, you know, I'm kind of afraid to go home because of like an embarrassment. And so now I'm just trying to like, you know, find what else I'm going to do. Maybe being like a mercenary or something, you know, very, very simple. And then in the next campaign that we did, they're like, all right, I'm a druid. My grove was going to be corrupted, so I used some forbidden magic. Didn't really go the way I wanted it to. My grove is now a nightmare place. My husband died in the process and is haunting me, and I don't know if it's like an actual haunting because they're a ghost, if it's part of the curse, or if it's a manifestation of my guilt. DM, you can decide, and I'll figure it out as we go.
Sounds great.
I mean, if that's not the pipeline, I don't know what is. If that's not the first timer to experience D&D player pipeline.
Yep.
Yeah. I think it's always going to be something more brazen because you want to test the limits. You're either gonna go from small to extreme, or you're going to just like step it up each time and see what you can get away with or what you're most comfortable with. My wife's first character, she was an edgy rogue because that was her thing.
It's a classic for a reason. Okay.
Yeah. And then her next one, she was just a brazen sorcerer, and she just went nuts. It was.
Oh, I love that.
So she started off like just like a small like little freedom fighter kind of rogue, and then next she's like in charge of an army, and just you can't talk to her because she's just gonna cut a wrestling promo over whatever you're saying.
Outstanding.
I love that idea of a sorcerer who like everything that they do is through the lens of like a professional wrestler. That's awesome. That is hilarious. I might steal that for a campaign.
The character's lovely. Absolute nightmare.
I had a player who their first game with me, they were very much like an orphan, wrong side of the tracks, but they were just kind of like trying to get by, and that was basically the whole character. They were just trying to, I'm hoping to make it to tomorrow, and whatever happens, happens. And then in the following game, they were like, okay, so I've been trying to protect my sister, so I gave my blood to a lake because it promised me power. And now I've got a warlock patron in there, and my character has kind of gone just a little bit over the deep end and is just making whatever deals for power she can get to grow stronger and compromising more of herself away every time. And I'm like, all right, that's a change. Okay.
That's awesome. That's so good.
That's a lot of DM fuel too.
It's a lot of DM fuel. Can you guess which player it is?
Was it Bella? Was it Aaron?
Yeah.
Oh boy. Yeah. No, she's definitely the embodiment of I press the button as a player, which is the best thing you can do for your DM.
Yeah, look, as a DM, I love having a player who presses the red button.
Let me tell all you players out there, okay? Because there are a lot of people, we love our characters. We obviously don't want to see them hurt. We don't want to see them die, right? But if you're in a campaign where one decision, let alone one roll, one decision, if your DM is like, if you make one decision, you're gone. You don't want to be at a table with that kind of DM. If someone puts a button in front of you and pressing it is just going to kill your character, you need to know as soon as you can so you can get away from that table.
Yeah.
They're going to let you have fun. They're going to give you chances. You'll have rolls. The amount of buttons that Bella has pressed just last... You probably don't want to hear this because you're in this campaign. But just last session, she opened up a book that was already cursed and like devours the souls of wizards. But she's a blood hunter, so they're all like, "You'll be fine." Tried to throw it overboard.
And I quote, "I'm not a wizard, so it won't eat my soul."
Exactly. She threw it into the ocean after making a deal with Ukatoa, and Ukatoa sent it back to her. This Critical Role sea serpent god sent it back to her, and she opened it up, and it just said "desire?" ? And then that word just kept being written over and over and over and over on the book until the page was covered in black ink. And so she closed it and put it away. She told me today what her desire was, and I'm going to offer her some really big stat increases. For what? We'll find out. We'll find out.
Push the button.
That's right. Push the button. It will be fun.
I was at, we had FOMOCon just recently over Gen Con weekend.
Shout out to Zoop Machine, who has been on the show before as well.
Absolutely. She did a great job putting on an online convention for those of us who couldn't be at Gen Con. And it was a ton of fun. I got to do a bunch of panels there. And one of the things I said on one of those panels was, players, folly is interesting. Making mistakes is interesting, and growing from them is interesting. It's not nearly as cool as you think it is to have the big twist happen and have your character going, "Yeah, I saw that coming." No, react. Let your character be devastated. Let your DM feel cool occasionally. Like that is how your character's gonna grow and change and get better. If you're just like, "I saw it coming, I'm good," it's like, all right, cool. Well, then nothing changes for you.
I haven't had any players cry, but I have had many call me a son of a bitch as things unfold. So I'm like, I'll just keep taking that.
That's it. That's a good one too.
That's a good one.
I feel like crying or "oh, you son of a bitch" is like the DM equivalent to when players get the DM to facepalm. Like if you can get the DM to facepalm or double facepalm, you're like, I won today, guys. I'm the winner. I won.
Yep.
Oh, it's so true. Oh, it's so true.
So do we have any tips for like if there's players out there who are like, I've never, so these are the people that whether they mean it as like an insult or they're lamenting it, that like Critical Role isn't what normal tables are like you have to be a professional actor to get to that level of like buy-in and that level of like narrative payoff. What would you say to those people to help them find that magic?
Figure
out where you want your character's story to start and where you want it to end. Too many people, when they make their characters, they make their character already at the end of the growth arc. They kind of like present the character as the finished product. Present the character at the beginning and then tell your DM where you're hoping to get them to by the end of the story, and embrace the journey of getting from A to B. I think for me, that's how I've always found the joy in telling these stories.
No, I agree with that. Anytime you can tell your dungeon master or storyteller what you are trying to accomplish, they can help build that road for you. And it helps put together stakes, and it makes it so much easier to get your skills tested and everything that your character is meant to do. You get to see if you just kind of just roll a thing and you're just like, okay, what are we doing? You don't really pay attention and you're just kind of along for the ride and you go, oh, I don't really understand what's happening. Well, okay.
I think
another piece of advice real quick that I heard at the convention last weekend that I've really started to take to heart is if you're in a group and maybe you're not feeling the chemistry, it might not be that you as the player don't have the chemistry. It's okay to say to your DM, hey, look, this character isn't having the chemistry with this group. Can I do a new character? That's okay to do. Because sometimes, if you've got, the goody two-shoes paladin in the group of people who are borderline evil, it probably feels very frustrating trying to play that character if that's not the angle you're going for. If you're not going for the angle of the paladin trying to redeem these bunch of ass clowns, if that's not what you're looking for, talk to your DM and let them, what? Maybe they've already done some work for your character and maybe that's going to go to waste, but that's better than you just trying to force a square peg into a round hole.
Yeah. And I mean, speaking of the, that analogy too, it could be that the table that you're at, if no one else is interested in doing that, telling stories, you can't do it on your own. You have to have equal amounts of buy-in, obviously, especially from your DM, but from the other players as well. So, if it isn't that type of table, like that's fine as well. It's also okay. I've had friends tell me before, like, hey, I'm having fun. You're a great DM, but like, I just don't think this table is for me, right? Like, I had someone tell me that my DM style wasn't really for them, and like, it's hard to take in the moment, but in the same way that we don't, that not all gamers enjoy all video games, right? It's going to be the same from table to table, not just TTRPG from TTRPG. But I think that my biggest advice for people who are looking for this, because I've even seen people who do enjoy it and who do feel like they have these great moments that could improve so much if they could get over the idea that failure is bad. I want you to think about the last time like you failed a big role. How did you feel? Not your character, you as the player. How did you feel? Was it frustrating? Were you angry about it? Because as the player, if you're looking for these sort of magical moments in TTRPGs and in the narrative and in the story, you should relish the failure, because the failure is where the big triumphs come from. Right? Think of the moment in Endgame when Cap stands up and he tightens the broken shield on his arm. He got to that moment because he failed a bunch of checks in the moment leading up to that. There were definitely some in there, that he passed as well, right? Whatever you think it'd be a strength check? No, it couldn't be a strength check to pick up Mjolnir. That's got to be like a there you go, yeah, charisma check, right? Yeah, he passed that to pick that up, right? But there were definitely failures that happened up to that point. Every time Banner turns into the Hulk against his will, that's a failed wisdom saving throw. Relish the failures and ask yourself, how can I use this to further my story? Watching somebody climb up a ladder, super boring. But if every other peg it breaks or they slip or they fall and you're like, oh no, that makes it interesting, right? Failure is interesting. Before we go, the last thing that we want to do here is we always do a am I the asshole from the perspective of a character as opposed to the player or like the table at large. Now, Kali, you have to wait until me and Matt go here because this is apparently from a player who must have been at your table because it says Kali must be there for this one to give context. Okay.
All right.
So this player who I don't see their name says, am I the asshole for possibly losing my shit at a party member who screwed us over more than once? As a party member, let's call her D, was notorious for making very bad decisions, trademark. Now, it's fine to make bad decisions, but not when they have lasting effects for the rest of us. We were tasked with escorting Irina to Valakai. Nobody else found it suspicious that this chick's brother was like, yes, I'll send her with this group of strangers. That's a great idea for everyone involved. And nobody thought it was suspicious that she was so okay with that arrangement. Unbeknownst to us, Irina was a vampire. She seduced D and managed to consume some of D's blood on more than one occasion.
Yeah, she did.
D was absolutely oblivious to this, a common theme for her. Dee's lack of self-preservation put the party in jeopardy. She was almost turned into a vampire herself and is only alive because my significant other, then Princess of the Summer Court, was able to revivify her. Dee was our wizard, and she was under the impression that she was some god's gift to magic or some shit. This sense of superiority tended to get her into some tight situations. Bit of background for myself, I was orphaned as a child and sent to a different plane. After spending some time here, my mother reached out to me through my dreams, and she told me that she was the queen of the Winter Court, making me Princess of the Winter Court. I struggled for a long time on how to tell the group that information. It was so new to me, and I needed time to process it. As it happens, my significant other has an identical story, though her mother was the queen of the Summer Court. Dee decided that it would be a good idea to demand an audience with my mother, completely bypassing me, a major slight to the Fae. The Winter Queen was livid at the fact that Dee completely disrespected her in my position and the customs of the Fae. As such, the Winter Queen cursed her to be unable to cast any spells above 2nd level until we finished the task at hand, which, as my significant other would later explain to Dee, was a mercy compared to the normal punishments for such a slight, like becoming an ice sculpture. Not only did Dee disrespect me, my mother, and by extension the Unseelie Court, but in the process, she screwed over the party by becoming a useless flesh bag for us to protect until she became useless again. Am I the asshole for losing my shit at a party member for screwing over the party several times like it was her goddamn job to do so? Whew.
Not the asshole.
Yeah, sure doesn't seem like it. Sure doesn't seem like it.
I would say even if you were chaotic good, you were well within your rights to kill this person.
I mean, she can only cast 2nd level spells. It wouldn't be that hard.
Figure it out.
All right, so some context that I'll add is, yes, obviously, this was in Curse of Strahd, and while they were escorting Irina to Vallaki, Irina started seducing one of them, using some vampire seduction to do so, obviously. So I'm not going to completely say that that was their fault. And no, I think this player had described it to me best, I think, actually, when they said, I don't think she's an asshole, but she is kind of a bitch.
I mean, that's fair. Yeah, that's kind of fair. I could see that. Yeah. I think, being kind of bitchy isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's a vibe for some people.
She's princess of the Winter Court. What do you think? She's a little icy.
Yeah. All right. Well, in that case, though, yeah, for sure, I've had players like this before. Granted, they were a new player who was really stuck on like the idea of like, oh no, I'm a chaotic player. I have to do chaotic things. Like even after like you fireball the party one too many times and cause things to go a little bit awry, and they're like, you need to communicate with us more. You need to talk to us more. And yet they never seem to grow or like realize you can change. They were so stuck on chaos.
Wild card.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. That's what it was. All right. Well, Matt, thank you so much for joining us today. Having you on has been an absolute delight. Here at the end of the show, we always give our guests a chance to shout out anything that they'd like to. I feel like I don't see you posting as much, so I'm not really sure what what's going on. But if you have anything you want to direct them to or let our listeners know where they can find you, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. Pretty much right now, I'm just working on writing, and I'm transitioning into helping people with their writing. I'm getting sort of back into book coaching, which is a lot of fun for me. So look for that soon. Right now, I'm working to smooth out GemmedFirefly, which is struggling with the prices of everything going up. Mm-hmm. And I'm really not trying to be that guy who's like, well, hey, pick up a shirt for $35. But it's like right now, everything's at cost. So if you want to buy a shirt, I'm probably going to lose 5 cents off it. So
look, I bought that. I've actually bought a few shirts from you, and it's been 6 or 7 years now, and they're still holding up. So not being paid for this promo, genuinely great products. Go check out GemmedFirefly.
Yeah. And do it soon, because I'm probably going to tear half of it down soon. Because I still like doing all the TTRPG designs and stuff, but GemmedFirefly was forged out of rage in 2020. And I think it's going back to those roots. So my political stuff still sells the best. And it's probably more cathartic for me to start making that stuff again.
Hey, a fuck Nazi shirt. I'll buy that.
Yeah.
As for us, if this isn't your first time listening, you know what we're about. And if it is your first time here, besides podcasts, we also do a ton of homebrew stuff over on our Patreon, which currently includes 1,000 magic items, 16 subclasses, the most recent of which is the Ghostwalker Fighter, 2 species. And if, depending on when this has come out, we might also have up a new system-neutral supplement called Curious Critters and Cute Companions, the Traveling Menagerie, which is a supplement to add into any of your games about a pocket dimension traveling pet shop, with cool pets in there that can do unique, cool little things, mostly role-play related stuff. Nothing like in combat that's going to make them a target for your DM. It even comes with little magic rings so you can dismiss them into a pocket dimension safely, just like familiars. You can also find us on social media, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, at Cloaks and Capes TTRPG, and please leave us a rating and a review on this podcast or episode, whichever your platform of choice allows you to do. That's going to be it for us, everybody. Join us next time, and thank you so much for listening. Keep on watching. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
The Cloaks and Capes podcast is created by the support of its listeners and generous Patreon donors. Special thanks to our myth makers and legends, Heartslot, Dolvik, Celtic Crow, Darkflux, Gamergal, Tater Thoughts, Chili, Capelli, and Cuta. Views and opinions expressed on this program are solely those of its hosts. Editing and production by Aaron Pillen, and music provided by Aidan Hageland. If you want to support the Cloaks and Capes podcast, check out our Patreon over at patreon.com/Cloaks and Capes, and check us out on Threads and Instagram at Cloaks and Capes TTRPG.